Spiral, the only anime podcast featuring genuine edible gold flakes, 23.7 carats.
We lose so much money. We cannot afford to keep buying the gold flakes.
You know, it's about standing out on the shelf. You know, it's what gives you the edge over your competitors. You look on the shelf for anime podcasts, you're going to definitely reach for the gold flaked one first. I don't know how many times I have to make this argument. I'm telling you, you just got to trust me.
Listen, it's not sustainable, especially since the way that we're getting the gold flakes is by drinking bottles of Goldschlager. I can't keep drinking all of that Goldschlager.
And straining it out. Yeah, that's true.
What? What do you mean straining it out?
Oh. That crisp cinnamon flavor that tells you you're drinking authentic 24 karat 23.7 karat gold flakes.
It's slightly less once it moves through the digestive tract, but close enough, yeah.
Okay. Don't be crass. I don't want to. Come on, we're trying to do an anime podcast here. I don't want to start the show thinking about that.
All right.
Oh, God damn it! Did you watch anime or something? Can we? Now I'm thinking about it, and I shouldn't have even brought it up.
So I did do some anime. Don't you worry.
I felt bad. You know, that last episode we really kind of went up against the rocks on terms of our anime content. I kind of pictured this episode we'd be like anime. You know what I mean?
No, I get it, and I understand. We need to balance it out a little bit.
Yeah,
we're an anime podcast. We want to give the people what they want, and
yeah, they want anime.
To be fair, we did talk about Hokkaido gals quite a bit last episode.
Probably too much. I don't really want to ever talk about Hokkaido gals that much again.
Well, I mean, that entirely depends on whether or not they decide to do a Hokkaido gal ship it in.
Do you think they would do a sequel series?
No, I'm sure this guy, this author, this absolute nobody perv, whoever he is
Damn.
Yeah, I'm not pulling any punches.
So dismissive. What if he did? Because you did mention that.
I'm sure that he's going to do something else. I'm sure that it's not going to be. It's not going to be more Hokkaido gals. Surely it could not be more Hokkaido gals.
It's just, I was thinking about it because, like, you did mention that the Hokkaido gal, the titular Hokkaido gal, descended herself from a Hokkaido gal.
That is true, yeah.
And I thought, there is the potentiality.
Mother was a Hokkaido gal. She's a Hokkaido gal. Her daughter is a Hokkaido gal.
Well, yeah, you'd move on to a sort of JoJo-esque series of Hokkaido gals, sort of like the next.
Keep going down the line until we're getting into like super futuristic Hokkaido gals and like cyber gals.
See, you're getting me excited because that sounds incredibly cool. Cyber gals, that's awesome.
A series about like android robot gals who are equipped to live in the far north. Yeah, I'd read that.
Do you remember in Transmetropolitan?
I don't like to admit to reading Warren Ellis comics. Okay,
I have less shame about it because I do like Transmet. Do you remember in that comic, it became very trendy to become like weird aliens?
Oh, yes.
Even though it was just humanity and they hadn't there was no aliens and they hadn't contacted aliens or anything. People just decided that they were going to get cosmetic surgery to become aliens. And that was like a fun trend.
No, actually it was slightly different than that. It was real aliens. The deal was that the aliens were refugees that had come to Earth, and their way of like making a living was by selling their genetic material to these like trust fund kid trenders who would use it to like get alien body part grafts onto themselves.
Wow, so I'm totally misremembering that. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
How embarrassing. Well, Western comics, Western comics is not really my area of expertise.
And it's not what this podcast is about. So really, I'd like to steer back towards anime a little bit.
All it was is I'm thinking about the way that alien Americans descended upon Japan and spread their cultural DNA to create the mutated gal that we know today.
some kind of genetic super gal that none can stand against in the future.
Yeah, it's sort of when the massive cultural leap that was the traditional, kimono wearing Japanese woman to the like bob haircut, flapper dress, modern Japanese woman. It was like traveling to a new galaxy.
All right, enough about Hokkaido gals. The comic's over. I want to stop thinking about them, all right?
Okay, all right,
I've put that part of my life behind me.
Okay, well, bring something new to the table.
All right, are you familiar with a little thing called the public transit system? You ever heard of that? You ever been on one of those, my friend?
Well, coming from a predominantly car culture, I have been raised to have a sort of innate hatred for all public transportation. It raises some kind of feral urge to cloister myself within my own vehicle.
I know, it really gets your hackles up. You want to get in your car where you feel safest of all.
Yes.
And listen to that song by the Cars.
Yes, and most importantly, isolated and alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what if I told you that in other countries, that's not the case? In fact, they invest in their public transit system.
What?
Oh, yeah. Well, you see, lots of people living in close proximity to each other, like a city, you really got to build around that as a concept. And so what better way than constructing a comprehensive train system with trains that turn into giant robots?
But that kind of economy wouldn't be able to support the strip mall that I'm so familiar with. So where would they put the strip malls?
Well, you see, they build them into the bottom floor of every building.
Oh, okay. All right. You know what? I don't hate that.
No, it's actually quite convenient. I like it.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
Yeah, having sampled it myself, I gotta say I recommend, and especially the part where you can again turn the trains into a giant robot and pilot them to fight monsters. That part was pretty dang cool.
And you can do this.
Yeah. Well, you can't because you don't have a special destiny key that lets you do it.
Oh, okay.
Certain special people can do it.
And does that come with your Go Pass, your Tap Pass?
They do put that in as a perk. It's an extra, I think, $75. That's like, I don't know, 9,000 yen on the base price. But yeah, it's totally worth it. And you get a little scorecard at the end that shows you how well you did. Gives you a little grade, shows you how many enemies you defeated. That was really cool. Nice little souvenir.
That is nice. That better be yearly.
No, you know what? I'm getting confused. That didn't happen. That didn't happen to me. That was an anime that I watched.
What?
That was an anime that I watched. I know. Sorry, folks. This happens a lot. I often get the details of anime confused with the intimate details of my own life.
For a long time, you did think you were dating a Hokkaido gal.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, no, Nate, you are married. Your wife is not a gal. She is an emo.
No, I married a California goth, not a Hokkaido gal.
She's a goth, not a Hokkaido gal. That's a parallel dimension, Nate.
That show is so goddamn stupid. God damn it. You threw me off. Thinking about Hokkaido gals. Get him out. Get him out of the discourse.
Okay, sorry. I'm really trying to purge it from my system.
I'm trying to talk, of course, about an anime that I watched a couple episodes of called Shinkalion. Have you heard of it?
Shinkalion.
Shinkalion.
Evangelion.
Oh, do you think, is that what they're doing?
Evangelion.
Are they doing an Ava pun with the name? Shinkalion?
Well, you said mechs, right?
They are mechs, yeah.
And they're piloted by teenagers?
They are piloted by middle schoolers, yes.
So, I mean...
But they're not unhappy about it. They're actually pretty stoked on getting in the mechs in this one.
Oh, they're into it?
Yeah, no, they're totally into it.
Well, that's refreshing.
In fact, the premise is that they go to a special school for train nerds. where they get to learn about trains.
Oh God.
And how to be engineers, which of course is the special code name that they call each other for, being able to pilot a big train.
At school for train watchers? Come on.
It is a bit of a stretch, okay? Especially since the main character, he's kind of in a weird position. He transfers to this new train-based middle school, like I said, because he is, in fact, highly enthusiastic about trains himself.
Sure.
He loves trains.
Train watcher.
And he's also the younger brother of a famous train scientist who tragically went missing in a train accident several years earlier.
Wait, what is a train scientist? You mean an engineer?
Well, kind of, but she wasn't really focused on making train engines. She was more focused on making trains that can go in between dimensions. Was kind of I gather her whole thing.
She was a theoreticist.
Yeah, well, specifically train-based theoretics.
Sure.
Theoretical train physics.
Right.
And in fact,
did she succeed?
Well, we don't know. She tragically, mysteriously disappeared in a train-based accident 2 years before the start of the series.
That's very suspicious.
And our main character is very sad about it. His train mom and his train dad, they have train breakfast with an empty chair for his train sister every day, but she's not there.
Sure.
And so, he goes to this school and, did I mention that everybody has kind of like special Palm Pilot things with little AI hologram friends that live inside them?
No, you didn't. Is that important?
Well, it is in Portland because, you see, everyone has these. It's pretty common.
It is in Portland?
It's important.
Is that what you said?
Important.
Oh,
Importante.
It is important.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's not in Portland, Maine, or Oregon. It is in Portland, Japan.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Can't get there from here.
Nope. Don't go down that road.
Can't see Tokyo Tower from here.
Don't got trains down that road. Damn trains always going up and down. No. He goes to this school and he discovers that his little Palm Pilot AI friend is different. You see, his genius train scientist sister made some special modifications that basically make it like a living, thinking thing unto itself with a personality and wants and needs and jealousies.
Oh, that's awful. Why would she do something so horrible?
Well, we don't know. She seems like a pretty bad person so far. She creates life and abandons it. She creates trains and abandons them. Just an absolute villain so far, in my opinion.
Sure.
Again, train-based villain.
Sort of a Wayland-esque scientist, you could say.
Yeah. And so he discovers, well, he makes friends. He makes two friends right away, a Hermione and a Ron, if I can use that language.
So we've got a Narusa Sakura.
Yeah, right off the bat, we have a Narusa Sakura.
Okay, cool.
I'm not sure how you function with the dynamic. He's not. I mean, we have the girl. That's a given. But he's kind of like the meek, level-headed, reserved one, and then he has a Naruto-esque best friend. Male friend that's part of the group.
Sure.
That's kind of like the brash. Outgoing one.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're doing their thing, that boarding school kids do, even though they don't board there. They're not boarding school kids.
Sure. Hanging outside the local 7-Eleven, asking adults to buy them wine coolers.
Please. Super Chuhai is the drink du jour.
Right. Super Chuhai.
Yeah.
The peach flavor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good.
It's pretty good.
It's
really
really good. It's really fucking good. Anyway, I want it right now. I can taste it on my lips. Oh. So they're doing their thing, sneaking around school grounds at night because, they heard a rumor that a super cool secret government train was being kept there. As you do.
Sure. In the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah. The Chamber of Secrets.
The Chamber of Secrets. Fuck.
Yep. I did it. Got one.
Jesus.
That's 1 point for Nate. And so they discover that his ultra cool special AI buddy has the ability to unlock the true potential of this special government train. And it does, in fact, turn into a giant mech robot that he uses to pilot. And I guess that there are monsters that come through portals at night. The portals only open up on train tracks, which is why I assume the government decided to build a train-based mech to fight them.
What?
Yeah.
That's so convenient.
Haven't explained that so far. But they are big monsters. Can you guess what they're called?
Train-based monsters? Is it some kind of train pun?
I wish. No, it is that trope of extremely lazy writing that we've talked about before, where they're just called like the unknown.
Oh, yes.
Which is what they're called. They're called the unknown.
They're called the unknown?
Yes. But it's that same thing of like, oh, the darkness.
The other siders.
Yeah, the evil ones.
Portal dwellers.
Mm-hmm. Him and his friends get train mechs after their teacher discovers that A, they found out about the train mechs, and that B, they already know how to pilot the train mechs. So since they're naturals and they've already fought a monster, might as well deputize them, I guess. Is that what you do? Induct them into government employ to fight monsters via train-based robots. That's Shinkalion or Shinkalion.
Shinkalion. Okay, I only have one question, and I feel like this might be the most important question. Can the mechs only move forward and backward?
No. They, in fact, have legs. They go full Transformer, mind you.
Well, what the fuck? How are they train-based then? Trains have to move forward or backwards. That's sort of the most
Well, you see,
important...
they start off as trains to get to the portals, via the tracks. You see, they're Shinkansen trains, so, they're bullet trains. They move very fast, so they can get there much faster on the track versus running on two legs. Once they get there, then they can get up on their legs and do kicks and, leg-based punches with them.
Are there passengers on the train?
Well, no. You see, these are special government trains that passengers aren't allowed to get on.
So these are not public trains. These are secret, hidden trains that nobody rides. Are they freight trains? Do they do anything other than turn into mechs?
No, they're specifically for fighting the train-based monsters.
Huh. They sound like a massive...
But they do have seats and aisles inside them.
They do.
Yes.
So people could potentially ride these to work.
They could get onto the train and ride it like a train. I don't know why you would. That sounds like...
What is the point?
What's the point? It's not why I'm here. It's not why anybody's here, is to just see people ride a regular ass train. I want to see the train turn into a giant robot and do kicks.
I want to see people use those cattle prodders to like push people onto the mech train. And then the mech train uses their energy, like their human energy, like a spirit bomb, to power its, I don't know, an engine. I assume it's not a coal engine.
Or what if it just straight up consumed them? Like it stands up and then they all fall into a digestion compartment at the bottom.
This is the thing that they sidestepped with Thomas the Tank Engine, making him a freight engine.
Freight engine. Let's make him a fright engine. Heyo.
Well, he would be a fright engine if people had to get inside Thomas the Tank Engine. I guess he did have a conductor though, right?
Yeah, the fat comptroller.
Yeah, it's been a long time. A long, long time. Do you think Thomas the Tank Engine would be able to put up a fight against these train monsters?
Yes. Thomas the Tank Engine has his own sentience, like he's his own fully developed adult person. And so he could definitely outthink the child that is piloting the giant robot train. And I think that gives him an irrefutable edge.
Sure, he would have a better handle on anti-train monster strategy.
He has a better control of his emotions. He can strategize better under stress, right?
No, he does very famously get angry sometimes. And he has to literally let off steam. I mean, that is his gimmick.
Well, I'm imagining him doing like the laser breath from Shin Godzilla, where he gathers all of his steam and it lights up in like lights along his back, and then it comes out the top.
Hell yeah, that would be sick. No, it's like when characters are being super badass in movies and like they smoke their whole cigarette in one go. You see his entire coal stalk just like glow orange and burn all the way down, and then his train face like turns gold and he goes Super Saiyan.
Okay, all right. There's one other question that I have where I want to move on from Shinkalion.
You have a question for yourself.
Well, I have a question for both of us. A proposal.
Oh, okay.
This was funded by the Tokyo Metropolitan, the train. I can't remember what the name of the company that runs the trains.
The public transportation department.
Yeah, the public transportation department. This was funded by them. It is an advertisement, obviously trying to get people to invest more in using public transportation.
Okay.
What other like public service do you think would benefit the most from having like an anime made about it to advertise it?
Boy, I mean, I wish I could go somewhere funny, but unfortunately my disgusting burnt out brain at this point goes directly to military cross promotion like Macross and various other propaganda that gets pumped out.
Yes.
Almost entirely. I would say at least 50% of like modern entertainment is like at least somewhat militarily propagandistic. But I don't know. Maybe there's like a fun like farming mech anime you could make about like Caterpillar.
Oh, you see, I wasn't necessarily thinking like keeping it strictly in the mech genre, although that is fun to think about with farming equipment.
Yeah, like a Caterpillar Reaper that like turns into a big mech and fights mutated cow monsters, I guess.
Isn't that what, oh man, what was that anime that came out last season or a couple seasons ago about the guys that run like the small business monster?
Yes, that is Bullbuster. Now that you mentioned it,
yeah, that's exactly what you're describing.
Oh my god! I guess it subconsciously crawled in there.
Yeah.
It is Bullbuster. That is a Caterpillar funded or like John Deere funded like industrial mech show. Yeah,
they're complaining about how they can't get open source parts for their mech. I was thinking more like a death game for the postal service, something like that. I could see being kind of fun.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jujutsu Kaisen-esque like Exorcist show, but it's for the public sanitation department. They have to go into the sewers and defeat trash monsters.
Exercising clogged toilets.
Yeah, exactly. Rat kings that like live down there. I think that'd be kind of sick.
I mean, that's kind of what Jujutsu Kaisen was supposed to start off as, pre-editorial. That was kind of the pitch.
I know, but there are so many that are just like, hey, there are like monsters that live with us in our day-to-day lives. Not specifically, there are monsters
that live in our toilets.
Yeah, or making our tap water unsafe to drink.
Yeah.
Like that is the kind of thing I think would be interesting to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rich area. That's all I'm saying. Remember in Akira, we had that great sequence where they're running through the sewers? What if you took that and just made it into an entire series?
I mean, it would definitely save on drawing backgrounds.
Yeah. The Ninja Turtles spend so much time down in the sewers, but they never fight.
They should really be getting a city salary for all the maintenance they do.
They could be down there cleaning at the sewers and making tap water safer to drink.
I mean, I really liked the premise of Kaiju number 8, where it started off as like him being part of the public cleanup, like crew
Yes.
for all of these monster attacks.
I know,
completely
I know.
abandoned right away. Total shame. But I like that concept, you know?
I loved that concept. Yes, I think what we talked about at the time, we were talking about it in relation to Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
You remember the Ron Perlman character is like he's the underworld character that sells kaiju parts.
Yeah, the black market monster part dealer.
Yes, that's fucking sick. Why, if it was a manga about him as a public works guy who cleans up kaiju monsters, and he uncovers like a public-private conspiracy where those parts are being sold to the black market to be, I don't know, what do you think they would be used for? Like some kind of drug? Like a new addictive street drug?
Either that, I prefer have them just be totally analogous to like traditional medicine type stuff and have them not do anything other than like placebo things. People just
rhino horn.
Yeah, people just like taking the monster parts because it's edgy and
yeah,
gives them status.
The spikes on Godzilla's back are like a highly sought after aphrodisiac.
Yeah, I like where you're going with this. I would do it different. I would have the main character be the monster part dealer and have it be about him living this dual life of being a public servant and then on the down low selling all these parts. You could do like a whole Breaking Bad kind of thing with it, right? Like he starts off.
That would be interesting.
Like he starts off because he can't afford his rent or whatever. He's about to get kicked out, and so he's heard about people wanting to buy monster parts on the down low.
Yeah.
And so he starts doing it himself, and he does it very clumsily at first, and almost gets caught.
Yeah.
And gets caught up in like a Yakuza ring that's doing the same thing.
Sure.
I mean, at this point, we're basically just copying Breaking Bad, which is like, okay, because Breaking Bad was good. People still like that show, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. You are reminding me and describing the first issue of that Tokyo-based weed grower manga that I never managed to find the second volume of, but I really want to read more of that because it sounds so it is
funny.
Definitely that. It sounds so funny. Oh man. And like Walter White, he is kind of a Japanese businessman. He would slot right in, you know?
Oh yeah,
at the beginning of the series, not by the end, but like at the beginning, definitely.
Okay, so what? We have him start off instead of a science teacher, he's an English teacher in Japan.
Oh, I was thinking just the traditional suicidal salary man. Gets berated by his shit boss. Mm-hmm. What he actually does at his job is like completely irrelevant, so we never actually figure it out. You know how in manga all the characters who work at
they
offices,
just sit at a computer doing spreadsheets.
They don't do anything.
They don't do anything.
They don't do anything. They just type on computers, and then somebody yells at them for not doing enough work. And then they get drunk after.
We need these files by the end of the day.
It's like in the not Hello Kitty, the Retsuko not Hello Kitty Netflix anime. What did she do at that job?
Specifically, she was part of payroll.
But for what? What did the company do? Were they advertisement? Are they advertisers?
No, again, they do the same joke where we see different employees at all levels of the company. And the joke is that whenever we see the CEO, he's kind of a bumbling idiot and he doesn't even know what the company does.
Sure.
Which I think is kind of a funny joke, why not?
No, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
But nothing in specific. She specifically works in the payroll department.
The most nondescript job at the nondescript company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Agretzko until they got weird with some gender politics stuff in the second season. That kind of threw me off.
Well, it's anime.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
Forget it, Jake. It's Anime Town.
Oh man, can I tell you about something else? Can we switch gears from the train public service stuff?
You have a second thing?
I have a second thing that I want to bring up.
All right, what is this mythical second thing?
Oh boy, so you know that I am no stranger to the seedier, down low, grittier parts of the anime and manga sphere, right?
You're talking about porn.
Well, it's not quite porn.
You read some porn.
It's not porn yet. I know it when I see it, and this is kind of it.
Okay, it's moving in that direction.
It's moving
though.
in that direction for sure.
Okay.
Now this is a manga that I stumbled upon. I did some reading with my eyeballs.
So a thumbnail caught your eye.
Yes, a thumbnail caught my eye.
Interesting. Not quite porn, but was interesting enough to click on.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was the description that got me.
Oh yeah, I watch it for the story.
Now, first of all, I wanna say that I should be applauded because this is not another Gyaru comic that I'm bringing to the table. I have stepped outside of my comfort zone. All right.
Oh God, he's reading Gothic Lolita.
I don't think
no.
I have the stomach for that yet. I'm working up to it. No, let me ask you this. What if you were a high schooler and you had the ability to reset time?
That would be worst case scenario for everyone around me and the world. that you're describing an incredibly bad set of circumstances for everyone.
Now, obviously, that's quite a bit of power to put on you. Now, what if you could only activate this power by taking off your underwear?
Hold on a second. You are not talking about the exorcist who has to exercise girls at his high school by taking off their underwear?
No, I'm not. Is that a thing? Is that a comic?
Yeah, yes, it is. This is an unrelated comic about taking off girls' underwear?
Yes, totally unrelated. No, I'm talking about
how many of these are there?
They just keep popping up.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm talking about
this is a whole subgenre.
A comic that I found, a manga called Haite Kudasai, Takamine-san, or Please Put Them On For Me, Takamine-san.
Oh God.
And
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so the basic premise is our main dude, Takamine, is your average nobody high school student. He does the whole intro, I have no interests, no talents, nobody knows me, I'm not popular, blah blah blah. And one day, due to a horrible scheduling mix-up with the gym, what do you call it when you have to put away all the gym equipment at the end of class? Anyway, he has to do that.
Cleanup?
Yeah, cleanup. He gets caught in a situation where he accidentally sees the smartest, prettiest ghoul.
Oh, now you're talking.
Kinda, almost. The smartest, prettiest girl in school without her shirt on. Scandalous, right? Bog standard for your high school perv comic, I would say.
Sure. Something that he would have done intentionally if he had the courage to do so.
But he would never have the courage because he's an absolute milquetoast louse of a man.
Yes. Yeah, we hate a peeping Tom, but a guy who just fantasizes about being a peeping Tom, somehow even worse.
Mm-hmm. But a guy who's accidentally a peeping Tom, that's okay, right?
I guess so. I still feel bad about it, though.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I don't like it.
Well, so obviously he gets out of this, or he doesn't get out of this situation. He gets caught right away.
Good.
Now, here's the thing. Instead of calling him out for being a big pervert who's perving on her, or running away and getting a teacher to come kick him out of school for being a horrible person, she does that thing where she's like, all right, you saw me naked. Now you have to do whatever I say.
The old blackmail.
Yeah, the old
emotional blackmail trick. Which makes no sense.
Absolute zero.
Makes zero sense at all.
I assume that it makes sense in context to a Japanese reader. I can only assume. I would never go along with it. I would obviously, God forbid I ever get caught in this situation. I'm not a perv. I would never do this to a person.
You haven't. Yeah, you've never been caught, so it's hard to imagine.
But I like to admit that in those situations, should it ever happen, I would own up to my faults and take my lumps and go to jail for the rest of my life. But no, he does not do that. He agrees to be her, quote unquote, and these are her words, her closet. Now, what do you think that could mean in the context of everything I've said so far?
Well, I guess he would store all of her clothes inside of himself.
Well, not inside of himself, but
or on his
in a
body.
bag that he has to in a bag that he has to keep on his body at all times. Yes.
Okay, sure.
Now,
So he's a clothes caddy.
he's a clothes caddy, and he's like, all right, I guess I got off pretty easy, all things considered. You know, I've not been outed as a sex pervert and been kicked out of school. All I've got to do is carry around this bag filled with her clothes.
No, and again, this is one of those things that is real head scratcher because he's essentially been rewarded for peeping on this girl.
Yeah. A bit of a confusing twist, you know, if you're looking at it from that angle, huh?
Oh no, I have to follow the pretty girl around all day and interact with her and grow closer to her.
Well, you see, it gets a little bit more complicated than that because later on, when they're in class together, he notices something. She stands up to answer a question that the teacher asked about the text that they were reading.
Oh no.
And she gets it wrong.
Oh no.
She gets it wrong. Now, you see, she's the girl that doesn't ever get anything wrong. She can't let that blow to her reputation stand. And wouldn't you know it, she comes from a long line of shrine maidens with the ability to reset time by removing articles of their underclothes.
So yeah, what
Now, there's a few rules that go into this power, as you can imagine. It's not carte blanche. One, any of the undergarments removed to activate the power disappear upon the reset, which is why she needs the clothes caddy to carry around spare underwear for her.
Oh, well, that makes perfect sense.
Pretty straightforward,
I get that
right?
part.
So that she can have an unlimited amount of time resets throughout the day.
Sure.
Now, the other rule,
And people just assume she's incontinent, but it's actually her magical ability.
True.
Yeah. Have we talked about the rom-com about the girl who's incontinent?
God, yes, we have.
Okay, good. Continue on.
Now, the other rule is, as you can imagine, by resetting time, that means no one would remember her mistake or her, you know, stripping down in the middle of class afterwards, right?
I guess it's this time travel stuff is never consistent.
Well, the other half of this is that if anybody ever sees her naked, they can remember her time skips.
Uh-huh.
And so naturally, Takamine, having seen her breasts accidentally, totally not in a pervert way, mind you, but having seen her naked in that state, he can now see past her time skip abilities. Time still gets reset, but he's aware of it the way she is. Great,
Cool. The underwear caddy is coming through in the clutch.
Now, and here's the thing. You can imagine that with this, and people always say the time travel, time rewrite, you know, stories are always really difficult and hard to write, which is true. But
Who says that?
Wait,
hold on.
Lots of people are saying it.
That is a weird assertion. That is a strange assertion you're
everybody
making.
says it. Everybody says it.
Everybody says
Yeah.
that. Everybody says
Listen,
this.
I heard about it on TV, okay?
Jules Verne was like, man, it took me a really long time to figure out this whole Murloc Aloy situation here. That was the hardest part.
Yeah, and people fucking hate the time machine. It's a dumb story. Everyone dunks on it.
Yeah. This one is much more
This
sophisticated.
is art, mind you, okay?
Okay.
No, what I'm trying to get at is there are places that you can go with this story that they refuse to keep it within the bounds of its boner comedy strappings, right?
Sure.
She never uses the power for anything more than resetting like embarrassing social situations or using it to like teach him a lesson somehow.
Sure. She never saves anybody's life.
She never uses it in any kind of heroic capacity. She never does anything like super
Never
crazy.
robs a bank.
She never goes back more than a few moments, at least so far.
I mean, look, if I could go back in time 10 seconds, I would be the best blackjack player in the world.
But she doesn't do that. She uses it to get really good grades.
God damn it, I fucking hate these grade grubbing striver kids. God, I hate them so much.
I mean, that's the motivator.
It's a mental illness.
It's really bad. I don't get it. Personally, I strive for C's throughout all of my education, just to keep expectations
I'm
low.
shooting for C's.
I can do better, but I don't want to.
You don't want to set the expectation for greatness.
Yeah, no. Leave that for some other schmuck.
Leave that for the time-traveling shrine maidens.
And the pantsless.
You know what? I would say even beyond that, the thing that jumps to my mind isn't necessarily the like strange scenarios she's avoiding. It is the cultural implications. Like, what counts as underwear? What counts as nudity? Are these cultural constructs that are flexible and porous? Could she potentially redefine her construct of nudity to not include breasts so that he is excluded from her time travel? Or is that something that is sort of nebulous in the way that, like, she cannot redefine a cultural concept because she is an individual and she has to abide by the cultural rules she is born into?
You know, they make the explicit detail that she is from a line of shrine maidens, which is Shinto in origin.
And what kind of underwear were they using, 6 generations back?
Yeah.
What counted as underwear, in the 1300s or whatever?
I assume some kind of cloth covering.
Yeah, it's like if this was the UK, right, would it be like petticoats?
Would the Scottish be excluded?
Yes. Yeah, what if she freeballed it all the time?
Well, they make that pretty clear, is that if she's not wearing any underwear, she can't use her power.
But what about a bra?
No, that counts.
What about garters?
Socks don't seem to count.
See, this is a mess.
So I think that may carry over to garters.
This is a mess. It's a complete mess.
It's a complete mess. It's a premise reaching far beyond what it needed to accomplish its goal of being a absolute trash tier boner comedy.
Yeah, see, the exorcism one really sidesteps all these issues by making it very simple. If a girl gets horny at school, her underwear stick to her body and can only be removed by a ghost exorcist.
That makes perfect sense to me.
That makes perfect sense. No time travel involved. None of these weird cultural boundaries.
The rules are very clear.
It's just a guy who can kill ghosts has to pull your pants down. That's the only way to get out of the situation.
Oh, man, I wish they had done that in the new Exorcist movie instead of what they did do.
Yeah. Oh, you wanted somebody to declothe the little girls?
No.
Is that what you're saying? All right, this segment is over.
We are again, back from that brief interlude. Now, as we stated at the top of the show, and I do want to reiterate now, we do not talk about American comics on this show. We are strictly talking about anime, manga. That's what it's about, anime death spiral.
Right. Well, it is funny that you say that because in my confusion, I did accidentally read some American language comics.
Well, no, that's fine as long as they were translated into English.
Well, no, they didn't make it over to the UK. They are specifically American.
Translated into American from English.
No, I would never deign to read an English comic. Are you kidding me? There's only one English comic I would read, and I think Alan Moore technically counts as Scottish. I think he is an honorary Scots.
Just because he hates the king so much.
Yeah, he's very anti-monarchist.
All right. Well, it's a bit iffy. I have my apprehensions, but I'm gonna let you go ahead. And I hope that you don't take us off the rails here.
I didn't mean to take us off the rails, and obviously I had no intention in reading American comics. It was not my intention, believe me. This was purely accidental, in practice and in spirit. But I did end up reading over, I don't know, a week and a half, about 2,000 pages of Hellboy, the comic. You know that comic by Mike Mignola?
Oh, I think I'm a little bit familiar.
Yeah, he used to draw the old Chronicles of Corum. Mm-hmm. You're probably familiar with that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, he also did during the old comic uprising, he did end up landing his own series called Hellboy.
Now, I'm intimately familiar with Hellboy. One of my core memories is like being, I think, 12 or 13 and going to a classmate's birthday party, and they all wanted to go see the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
yeah, and I ended up sneaking out of that to go into a showing of Hellboy because I thought it was too scary. And that was my introduction to Hellboy because they gave out free mini comics to people who went to see the movie, and it was a free mini preview issue of The Crooked Man, which we all know is in theaters now.
Is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm not going to Google it to fact check you, so I'm just going to have to take your word for it.
I would never lie about that. That's true. It's 100% true. You will not be hearing more from us in a fact-checking segment in the future about this subject.
You can go and see that right now?
Yep.
Okay, well, anyway, I started reading Hellboy. I'm not sure why I did that.
It'll be true by the time this episode comes out.
But I did go ahead and read all, 2,000 pages of Hellboy. And I had a strange switch flipped in my brain. Now, my general disdain for all non-manga comics.
That's true. You've been very vocal about it.
Yes, of course. The supremacy of the Japanese art form, obviously.
Absolutely. And, with all of the titans of the Western comic scene falling to, let's say, unsavory allegations left and right these days.
Various cancellations spreading across the American comic landscape like some kind of contagious disease. Yes.
It's only going to go up for the Japanese.
Again, Alan Moore just undefeated, taking dubs everywhere, left and right. He was right about everything and everybody.
Based Alan Moore never loses.
He will never lose. People come for Alan Moore all the time, and they just get fucking dunked on every single time.
You can't come for the king.
Do not step to Alan Moore, you fools. People are like, wow, Joaquin Phoenix is really bringing the edgy new thing to the Joker. No, he's not.
Yeah, Alan Moore did that 40 fucking years ago. Get over it.
Alan Moore did the Joker. No one else can do that shit. He already did it. Joaquin Phoenix, by all accounts, kind of an asshole. Those movies aren't very good. I haven't seen the second one, but I'm assuming it's not very good. Lady Gaga, though, surprisingly, not a bad
cast.
Not a bad actor.
No, she's great. She's great.
I mean, she fits.
If there's any reason for me to see that new Joaquin Joker movie, it's going to be to see what she's bringing to the table.
Yeah, I kind of like that casting. I think it's interesting. Mm-hmm. I hope she doesn't sing too many songs, though. You know what I mean?
It is billed as a musical, so I have to assume that she will.
I hope it's not too much of that.
I don't know. I liked her in that season of American Horror Story. She's fine. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, she's good. I've always meant to go back and watch that House of Gucci because I heard the accent she does is mind-blowing. Something you've never heard before. It's not Italian. She's trying to do Italian from what I understand. It is not Italian.
Is that the one with Adam Driver? Was he the other guy in there?
Yes, he is.
You've been
He's
vocal about your disdain for Mr. Adam Driver man.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. You know, obviously I'm going to go see Megalopolis.
Mega what now?
Day one. Megalopolis.
Megalopolis?
Megalopolis. I will see that opening weekend, of course. I wish it was anybody but him. But it's fine. You know, I always assumed it was going to be Robert Pattinson when I heard the concept. But no, he went with Adam Driver for some reason.
No, now we get Robert Pattinson in the Matt Reeves Batman verse.
God, that movie sucked so bad.
By the way, go watch The Penguin on Max now.
Yeah. Again, Alan Moore, man, he did Batman already. Why would we continue to make these movies? But I don't want to talk about DC.
No, let's not talk about that.
I don't want to talk about Marvel. I mean, look at us two. We're very advanced comic readers. I don't know if we've made that clear over the course of 77 episodes.
We know our stuff. We've seen some things or two on the page.
We've been around. I don't need to read a Green Lantern, let's say. Not interested in that.
Not interested. I don't need no Superman or Batman. I'll take a Spider-Man every now and then.
I don't care what Martian Manhunter is up to.
God,
you know?
This is just the dumbest name, right?
Martian Manhunter?
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that. I kind of like that name. It's cool. Because it's very descriptive. Blue Beetle. What does that mean? But Martian Manhunter, I'm all about. It's like, I know what his deal is. He's from Mars, and he hunts men. No other introductions are necessary. But it doesn't matter, because I don't read that shit. I read highbrow, sophisticated comics.
Stuff like Hellboy.
Stuff like, you know, the much-acclaimed Jeff Smith series, Bone.
Oh, man. I haven't read it in a long time, but I do genuinely really love Bone.
I will say, you know how much I hate to put irony aside, but I did complete my Bone collection, and as a child, had them signed by him at my local comic shop.
Nice.
One of the most exciting fan interactions I've ever had in my life.
That's very cool.
It's very cool.
Jeff Smith seems like a cool guy. I think I feel like he would have a pleasing aura, you know, a calming aura about him.
I was very nervous, and he was very nice to me. So, you know, I don't know the man personally, but I did have a good time. Got his big graphic novel, Razzle, which I found very good. I think that comic fucking kicks ass and kind of exemplifies what I like about as maligned as the term is now, the graphic novel, you know? He has a central thesis that he explores over the course of, like, I don't know, like 250, 300 pages. I'd have to pull it off my shelf. And then it's over. I really, really like that.
Well, we've talked about that before, the downfall. I mean, not downfall, but the reason that I personally don't like shonen stuff or like the bigger names in manga is because, you know, after a while, it just becomes self-perpetuating for the sake of continuing to exist. And I know that you're going to say, someone out there is going to say, but One Piece is definitely going someplace. We're not all being strung along. There's definitely something that's going to happen eventually. But I have very little faith in that statement, my friend. Sorry to throw shots at One Piece.
Okay, you are not qualified to make these statements. Yeah, you of all people. I
will say wild things when I want to with no evidence or backup.
Look, let's get off One Piece. Let's get to something that didn't run quite as long, like Hellboy.
Okay, all right.
Hellboy is a strange cultural artifact.
Well, what do you mean? Because I have ideas on what you mean by that statement, but I'm interested.
I find Hellboy to be completely misunderstood, at least I think in most cultural contexts. Part of my Hellboy read was I did go and watch the 3 currently released at home VOD level Hellboy movies. the two Del Toros.
The animated ones?
No, none of the animated
okay.
ones. I'm not interested in Hellboy cartoon at all.
All right.
Like, not even a little bit.
Fair enough.
I know Mignola prefers them to the live action movies, but man, I could not be less interested in Hellboy cartoons.
Well,
Was interested in that game that came out recently because I thought they nailed the art style like so well, but I just never went back for it.
It did look really like his art style,
Yeah.
but I know what that's what I was going to say as well. I feel like everyone that's tried to take a crack at adapting like Hellboy into various media, something gets lost along the way, whether willfully or just like by virtue of not being able to replicate it in anything but a comic form.
Yeah, I think people look at Hellboy. He is a big red guy with a tail and horn stubs, little stubs of horns. Occasionally he carries a big gun, though in the comics he makes a big point about he doesn't like using it and he doesn't use it very often because he's a bad shot, which is part of the thing that I think throws people off in the translation. Because Hellboy is not, and this is where I might get in trouble, Hellboy is not an action comic.
Yeah, he's not a superhero.
He's not a superhero and he's not an action hero, even though he beats people up a lot.
He's a government employee, and
I would say not even that, because his government employment ends very early on in the run.
yeah,
It starts off as Mignola playing out of his comfort zone for the first time. I don't know how many people, I made the joke earlier, but I don't know how many people know that he did start off adapting Michael Moorcock's Chronicles of Corum. Michael Moorcock being one of the biggest fantasy names in the 70s. Unfortunately British, but he did define fantasy for quite a long time. Basically the inventor of kind of the sad sack, white-haired loner doomed fantasy protagonist, which is what I'm trying to connect here with Hellboy, because people also misrepresent Michael Moorcock's famous character Elric of Melniboné in very similar ways.
the White Wolf.
Yes, the White Wolf, the Bringer of Storms, the Agent of Chaos. You hear those titles, and yeah, you probably would misrepresent him. Hellboy is at first a noir detective.
Well,
he's a supernatural noir
It
detective.
shifts genre through its various arcs, and I think that's one of the things that I find charming about Hellboy overall. Is it's not afraid to let itself be defined, or it doesn't want to be defined by any one like genre strapping, right?
Yes, and this is what I think is so interesting about him starting off in Corum, because Corum is the most epic of epic fantasies about a doomed hero, and it is not a serial in that it doesn't have like discrete stories, but it is also not one long continuous storyline either. It is like a dream.
A series of vignettes almost.
Yes, linked together by deep lore,
Yeah.
but at the same time, completely dreamlike. Reality does not exist, and things appear and disappear at will. There is no sense of chronology, and things exist to vibe. And I think this is the link from 70s fantasy through Michael Moorcock, who, even before doing Elric, was very famous for writing an essay called Epic Pooh.
Hey, come on, don't be crass, all right?
I'm not trying to be crass. It's like Winnie the Pooh. It's like Winnie the Pooh. And this is very definitive for me because it speaks to something that would define fantasy all the way up through Hellboy and onward, because it's a critique of Lord of the Rings and sort of the escapist style fantasy. Michael Moorcock wrote this great essay, talking about the sort of doomed conservative escapism of J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and Richard Adams, which he called Anglican Toryism, which I find very funny, especially as it connects to Hellboy, because Hellboy ends up being anti-romanticized Catholicism in a lot of spots, which I find also, very funny. I don't know if we talked about it on this show, but the split between Protestantism and Catholicism showing up in fantasy at the end of the 80s and continuing onwards. And Hellboy, as a uniquely American product, taking Catholicism and sort of dismantling it into a pre-Catholic, pre-Protestant, almost pagan thrust is hilarious to me.
I mean, I think it's one of the coolest parts of the way Mignol has written the story. I think that that in particular is the link between the like pulpy, like science-y shtick that we start off with, and as it transitions into the more fantastical, like mythological and religious aspects of the world. We do the Wild Hunt and the Hellboy and Hell arcs. And I think that's kind of like, I think that's the vibe that they're going for, right?
Yes. Like leading out of Moorcock in this essay and into his works, like I said, Coram and Elric, who went on to inspire, by the way, a very key touchstone for anime, Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah, boy.
Right?
That's my boy D.
Vampire Hunter D is Elric of Melniboné passed through anime and video games. He is the same character.
Okay, but he's cooler because he's a vampire and he has a demon hand.
Yeah, and he's like a weird mix of like fantasy and sci-fi, and he can like traverse weird time pockets. But you will notice if you go back and read those books and you compare them to Elric, they are translations. There's even one of the most famous Elric stories is The Dreaming City, and D in those books, I think one of the 5th or the 6th book does go to a dreaming city. So I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. But we went through that. We went into, let's say, what is another popular ripoff, uncharitably ripoff? What's popular, right? Oh, The Witcher, The White Wolf. Interesting.
I think that one is a little bit more on the nose. And in fact, what's that author's name? Who wrote
Andrzej Sapkowski.
Yeah, Sapkowski. I think that he is doing a little bit more than a nod to Elric with Geralt's design, especially when you look at artwork. Like, it's exactly the same. Elric is a essentially pale albino guy who
sickly
looking,
sad sack.
He wanders around the countryside being rejected by communities, and he has a sword that he uses to fight monsters.
Yeah, a special sword, by the way.
A special monster fighting sword.
Yes, a special monster fighting sword.
I don't want to say that that there's any illegal crossover of ideas here, but if you ran this through one of those plagiarism checking sites that teachers have, I don't think it would come back clean.
It would pass with a couple question marks.
Yeah.
Well, here's the link, and this is what I've been trying to draw. I've been trying to draw you through a series of inspirations. Hellboy is the 1920s American noir version of The Witcher.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I can see where you're going with this. I feel like
it is a story about a kind of a sad sack loser who starts off in a dying organization that is about protecting the world from the old guard, the magic of the old guard, which is itself on its own fading away because the rise of humanity. He has a magical hand, which serves as his sword, that, as the story goes on, becomes very clear is just a burden to him, much like the Witcher's sword becomes a burden to him over time. He has a destiny that he just wants to get rid of. He spends the entire sequence of stories fighting against what he is supposed to be, and then in the end, dying because he can't reject it. I mean, man, come on. These are the same stories, but the basis of them comes from their own unique cultures. Obviously, Andrzej Sapkowski is writing about Polish fantasy. Mignola is pulling from his history with Moorcock, like I said, which is a lot of kind of UK fantasy, fairies, and he also pulls like Baba Yaga and stuff, kind of the more well-known mythologies of other cultures, but specifically in tone, the sad sack piece of shit 1920s noir detectives, which is where he kind of injects his own personality into it. And I find that element to be incredibly interesting, and the first element that adaptations always jettison. That is my problem, and here's where, this is the spicy quote that I want to put out so that we get some heat on the podcast, so like we get flamed by people. The Del Toro movies, Guillermo del Toro, he doesn't do it. He doesn't understand Hellboy. He fucks up. Del Toro fucked up Hellboy. He doesn't understand Hellboy. His movies don't do Hellboy justice.
Here for a podcast that has been historically pro Del Toro. I got to step in here and defend my boy a little bit.
Okay.
Yes, I think fundamentally what we got in the Del Toro Hellboy movies was not an accurate or quote unquote good adaptation of the comic pages. Here's where I'm going to say that, and say what you want about this mentality. I don't think that Del Toro was trying to do that. I think that he saw the characters. He's like so many filmmakers, he thinks of things in terms of dolls that he can play with. He saw the characters in the comic book that he liked, and he just wanted to take them and put them into a movie that he would make. He was not trying to make the Mignola pages come to life. He was trying to make a Del Toro action movie with these little action figures that he lifted from Mike's stories, right? Now, whether or not that was good, that's up for interpretation. I still like those movies. You know, they have charm.
Dude, what are you doing? I'm trying to drop hot takes so that we get some heat on the podcast.
Well, you know, I cannot stand by. I cannot. I'm a Del Toro boy all the way through.
I know. I like the man as well. Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth. Are you kidding me, dude? That shit rocks. I love that. Kronos. I love that shit.
I mean,
all I'm saying is he sucks and he fucked up Hellboy and he got it wrong in all the wrong ways. And his Hellboy does not match the Hellboy of the comics, and Mike Mignola was right when he said it was bad. That's all I'm saying.
Oh boy. Oh, they're gonna come after us for that one. Ooh.
Let them. Good. Let them. The thing that he misunderstands about the character is the thing that everybody misunderstands about the character. Another hot take. Everybody misunderstands Hellboy but me.
Everybody gets it wrong.
Every single person but me misunderstands
and that
Hellboy.
includes Mike.
Yeah, including Mike. Mike doesn't know how to read his own character. Hey, that happens. You know that happens. Sometimes
we know.
People don't understand.
We know.
Yeah. I think Mike has a good idea about it. But Hellboy is, like we said earlier, not an action hero. He's a sad sack piece of shit. And the thing that defines Hellboy, and the thing that I find absolutely fascinating and compelling about Hellboy, is that it is just drenched in this slow motion melancholy. And it is a thing, I don't know if I've said that, I'm sure I mentioned this before, but it is not in a kind of serialized comic form where you have like these arcs where it's like, oh no, Superman has to beat, I don't know, who does he fight? Bizarro Superman?
Yeah, Dark Side?
Dark Seed?
Dark Seed?
Dark Side? Dark Seed? Is it Seed?
Spelled S-E-I-D.
I don't know how to read that. That's not how you spell either of those words. That's my point. Comics are stupid, and Hellboy isn't as stupid as that. Hellboy is picaresque.
Now,
Hellboy is a series of kind of somber misadventures.
Yeah.
And his participation in them is almost incidental. But the stories themselves are even though they usually feature fighting and violence and occasionally pathos or whatever, they are stories of kind of slow motion doom. And Hellboy himself very rarely is an active participant in them.
Well, I think that's pretty on point for the whole theme of the story. You know, we start off, one of the first kind of little threads that they put in the beginning of the story when they're still doing the pulpy stuff is about his hand, his big club hand.
Yes.
The right hand of doom, and how it is, quote unquote, the key to the apocalypse.
Whatever that's supposed to mean.
Whatever that means, it ends up meaning different things to different people throughout the story. It's kind of vague.
Yeah.
Which is another point of it, but we get that at the beginning, and I think that is what Guillermo tripped up on focusing on, right? Because he makes that part the central angle of the movie plot is, it's all about the apocalypse and leading towards the apocalypse. But in the comic, and this is what I was trying to get at, and kind of feeding into that kind of mood you were talking about, is even though yes, he's part of this whole apocalypse, doomsday, fate, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, the wheel of destiny.
Yeah, that's not really the point. And when those things do come to pass, they almost happen in a benign way. And really the mood is more about the weight of that kind of just permeating his existence. That's why he's such a sad sack, right?
Yeah.
I like that more definitely than just, he's got the apocalypse MacGuffin.
See, the thing I think people misunderstand, and this is why I don't like the Del Toro movie. Don't like, I guess, is strong, if I'm being honest. I think those movies are visually great, especially if you watch that last one, Hellboy 2019. God damn.
Whew.
Just very boring to look at as a product.
Sorry, David Harbour. Go back to Stranger Things.
Yeah, not a good choice.
You're the only one not aging out of your role at a rapid rate.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. But Del Toro views it, and in all of his movies, he views it as romance, and with a capital R. And my problem as well is that the lowercase r romance in that movie also...
That sucks. It's dumb.
It's such a bad choice.
It's such a bad read on the characters,
Yes, it's a very bad read on the characters.
In the comics, Hellboy, I guess in the Del Toro movie, Hellboy and Liz, one of the female members of the ghost fighting team that they're part of.
Yeah, Monster Smashers.
Yeah, the Monster Smashers, the BPRD.
The Monster Squad.
In the movies, they have a whole romance thing going on. And in the comics, they're I don't know, estranged coworkers at best throughout most of the thing.
Well, they're not estranged coworkers. They have their backs.
They're friends, they're friendly, and they kind of grew up together. Yeah. But he leaves for long stretches of time. And I don't know, did you ever read the BPRD comics?
No, I intentionally did not read the BPRD comics because I was focused on Hellboy, and I wanted to keep it pure. Keep my focus of Hellboy pure.
It's hard because, I don't know, it's one of those things where the story of Hellboy does not necessarily require investment in the story of BPRD. You can read the Hellboy collection start to finish and get, the broad strokes and 90% of the details of his story. But the BPRD comic is, at least for Mignola, was more of an exercise in doing a more structured, point A to point B comic plot, right?
Yes, and that's representative in the first quarter of the Hellboy chunk.
And it is, in fact, a direct continuation of that beginning portion of Hellboy where it's more focused on the pulp sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the point where he decides that he wants Hellboy to be more mythology and religious focused, and explore that aspect of the world, he immediately quarantines all sci-fi plots and stuff to the BPRD plot line. And so it does require, BPRD does require knowledge of Hellboy's story for it to make sense.
Right. You got to know where those aliens come from.
I mean, kind of. They're not really. They're more of doing a Lovecraftian kind of eldritch like lore riff thing.
Sure, where those frog guys come from.
Yeah, the frog guys, the sons of Samael, the fungus dragon.
Yeah, the stuff I don't really care as much about.
I do like BPRD. I did like it quite a bit because it does, like, one, it focuses more on a linear plotted storyline that you follow these characters through, and then because of that, it does focus more on character work with this cast of characters instead of just being about sad sack Hellboy walking around the dark corners of the earth, lamenting how no matter what he does, hell stuff follows him around.
Well, things happen, and we have recurring characters. In fact, I think those characters are really interesting, but they're antagonistic.
Yes, very much so.
The recurring cast in Hellboy is kind of low key antagonistic to Hellboy, which I find fascinating. I love that. His relationship with Baba Yaga and the way that it evolves in those comics is great.
In the comics, to these mythological figures, Hellboy is almost a representation of the end of their age. And in that sense, the apocalypse that his existence foretells isn't really the human apocalypse. It's the apocalypse of their world, of the mythological.
Yes. They are so desperate to convince him that he is supposed to kill off humanity because secretly they're afraid that he's there to kill them off, that he is the end of all mythology.
Which is like the looming presence throughout his entire arc.
Yeah.
Is the end of the old world.
And that is so fucking cool.
It's very cool.
Really
It's the best aspect. It's one of my favorite aspects of the Hellboy story. Besides the fact that, trench coat and big hand look cool.
Well, and he just looks so fucking cool.
He looks so cool.
I was going to say, there is a thing that happens if you read straight through where, first of all, his silhouette begins very cool. I mean, Mignola is an incredible artist, and his silhouettes in particular are fantastic. The dude knows how to draw a shape.
Yeah.
And especially Hellboy in particular. And this kind of relates to his sad sackism increasing over the series of comics, in that his shoulders
just get more slumped
and
tired the entire time.
Until he is basically just a triangle. It's incredible. It looks so fucking cool. And what is really interesting about that is that when we reach kind of the end point of humanity, which is really kind of the end point of humanity within the comics, right? Because he goes through these series of relationships. He has this really strange relationship with Baba Yaga, like I said, which has one of the best culminations, even though it's so incredibly low key. When Baba Yaga puts aside her pride and just says, "Hellboy, please let me have your eyes so I can see the end clearly," is kind of like an incredible, heartbreaking moment. I found it to be really moving.
Well,
and that's sort of the way his relationship with all of these characters culminates.
He exists. He is constantly aware, and this is like one of his defining character traits, is that he exists in both of these worlds. And I think he, in a way, understands that as part of this, whatever prophecy that he's part of, he understands that there's nothing he can do about it, and he sympathizes with these people.
Yeah.
And they come after him all the same, and he fights them off all the same. But, there's this doomed sense of forsakenness about the whole thing. It's very reminiscent of Norse mythology, right? And the Ragnarok myth.
It very much, and they name check Ragnarok so often, but not in a hacky way where usually comics do, where they're like, oh, and he finds the hammer of Thor and Odin's son and all that bullshit. They just kind of say, like, well, there's an ending. There's an ending to things. And we reference that by calling it Ragnarok. But I think the single most pivotal story, and maybe let's see if you agree with me, there is a story near the middle where Hellboy is pulled into the ocean by, I guess, mermaids.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Are they mermaids? I can't really.
Yeah, they're mermaids.
Yeah, they don't make it very clear. And then, of course, Abe's sapiens existence kind of muddies the water there too. It's like, wait, what? What is he? Is he one of those things? Or
no. Abe is, his story is, so the BPRD comic line eventually just turns into the Abe Sapien comic. It's mostly his story, but his whole thing is that he used to be a person, and a Lovecraftian fish cult turned him into a fish man because they were trying to bring about the apocalypse in their own way. And he was part of that plan, but then it turns out that he forgot who he was before he was a fish man, and so
I hate when that happens. He didn't want to just forget who you are.
He was a guy who wanted to do the apocalypse, and so he turned himself into a fish man, but then he forgot he was that guy, and so he didn't want to do the apocalypse anymore.
Oh, that's lucky.
Yeah, right?
Woo.
I know.
Dodged a bullet there.
Dodged a bullet. Anyway, that's irrelevant to what happens with Hellboy with the mermaids in the ocean.
Yeah, I guess it is, because I didn't know that part. I figured this was just some kind of weird oblique reference, but he gets pulled down, and he there's a really funny part where Hellboy's like, why can I breathe under the ocean? And these mermaids are like, don't worry about it. Who cares? And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Who fucking cares? But it's a great story.
It's because they put a magic nail in his head.
Yeah, they put a nail, but it's like, who cares? She literally just goes, who cares? But it's this horrible fish Baba Yaga, who is sort of a villain.
A fish witch.
She does evil witch stuff. Yeah. And Hellboy is very confused about this whole thing because, again, there's this underlying current in his life of like, maybe I should just let them like kill me or whatever, because then like the apocalypse won't happen.
Listen, like many ex-government employees, they've all had that thought.
Yeah, maybe I should just die.
maybe I should just let them kill me.
And he's down there, and he has exactly that thought. And I feel like this is really the biggest culmination, because this horrible Baba Yaga thing is like, hey, like I'm just gonna keep you down here because you're gonna kill everyone. You're gonna kill us all. And that's bad. You don't want that, right? And Hellboy's like,
no, I guess not.
Yeah, I guess that is bad. Maybe I should just stay down here. But he sees a moment of cruelty where she kind of tortures this innocent mermaid. And he remembers like, oh, whether I want to or not, that's sort of what I do, is I want to be heroic, even in the smallest details, if I can.
Yeah, it's whether or not I feel bad for you, you're still a jerk, and so I got to put you in your place.
And even when he does it, you know, he knows it's not going to turn out well. But this is what I have to do. What is put in front of me,
and
even if it's bad, and it does turn out bad.
And again, is he that way because that's the way he was brought up, and those are the morals the professor instilled in him? We never mentioned that he was raised by a splinter, but yeah. or is he that way because he needs to be that way for the apocalypse to happen?
Is he that way because he thinks that's how to avert the apocalypse? Or is he that way because that's how the apocalypse is supposed to happen? Or is he that way because he's just a guy trying to do what he can do about the things he can see?
Yeah, I like the way that Mignola weaves, and this is an unflattering word, but like the mundanity of all these things into these big world-affecting events.
That is exactly what I mean by the sort of melancholy aspect of Hellboy, in that everything is sort of nonchalant.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, picaresque, where he kind of drifts between these scenarios, and he just does what he can about what is in front of him, and he desperately tries not to think about anything else.
See, the scene that jumps to my mind when you bring that up is, I think, like right before the Wild Hunt starts, there's a scene where Baba Yaga is plotting with some of the other like mythological fae creatures from like Gaelic folklore, and they're all
yes, lots of fairy folk.
Yeah, fairy folk. And they're all standing around talking about, you know, their plot to kill Hellboy. And they all kind of are just kind of standing around like, well, this is all we can do. our time is fading fast, and if we do nothing, we're dead. And I'm pretty sure that if we do this, we're dead anyway. So let's try it. And they're all just so fucking sad and like angry at each other and at him. And then it cuts to him, and he's just kind of like having a day, like any regular person does.
Yeah. These things are standing around in the, like, whatever, the shadow realm, being like, well, we got to kill Hellboy. And then we cut back to Hellboy, and these humans, these piece of shit Englishmen, always Englishmen, are like, well, we got to kill Hellboy. So why don't we just do that? And Hellboy's like, why are they all trying to kill me? This fucking sucks.
This fucking sucks. I don't even get paid.
Yeah. So when they eventually make the Del Toro movie, and like we said, I think Del Toro tries to turn Hellboy into a high romance. He tries to, like, I think you said at the time when I was talking about it, he tries to turn him into sort of a Frankenstein, a misunderstood, like, romantic anti-hero. And he was fresh off of Blade.
I think the term that I used was a superhero Frankenstein.
Yeah, and like I said at the time, he was fresh off of Blade and doing a Blade, essentially. But Hellboy has even less agency in his movies because he's supposed to be underground. He's a monster. He doesn't want humans to see him. And he's kept in a big box.
He's a cryptid.
Yeah, he is they treat him literally as a cryptid. The Jeffrey Tambor is in those movies a lot, and his big joke is that he keeps telling people that the BPRD does not exist. And then we cut to the BPRD. They do that joke like 4 times, by the way.
I do love Jeffrey Tambor, though.
I know. It's a shame about all the stuff. Yeah. Anyway, that is, I feel, like I said, the misrepresentation. And then we have the other misrepresentation, which is, I feel like, the more American one, where we make the David Harbour movie. And their attempt is the polar opposite of Del Toro's, in that they decide they're going to adapt the comics. Like, adapt the comics. So what they decide to do is chop up the Wild Hunt and kind of mishmash it all together in different ways, but wrap it around a completely modernized, Marvelized Hellboy. Hellboy is now a, like, grunge rock, he's like a Korn style fucking Hellboy.
Limp Bizkit Hellboy.
Yeah, who quips. He always has a funny line to say. He's irreverent.
Well, that happened.
Yeah, he literally says, well, that happened at the end of the movie. In actually what is the 3rd post-credit sequence.
Oh, God.
Yeah. No, the second one. The 3rd one is Baba Yaga. There's another Baba Yaga one after the credits.
Oh, they do a tease.
They do a tease for a sequel. That is Baba Yaga.
That they never do.
That they never end up doing. For good reason. In this one, Hellboy's dad is alive, but he's played by Ian McShane, who is a fucking asshole, and they have a really contentious relationship with each other, where Ian McShane is always calling him like a lazy piece of shit. His dumbass piece of shit, lazy son, who just has to get out there and stop being an alcoholic and get his job done for humanity. Terrible, terrible read on a character who dies in the first issue.
Well, Guillermo did that too, because, and I can't stress this enough, that character, Professor Broom, dies within, like, the first 6 pages of the first issue.
Yes, he is immediately dead.
And so making him the emotional core of tying, like, Hellboy to humanity in those movies was a weird, it was a weird thing. I mean,
a huge mistake and a huge misread of the character, again, in that, like, makes it very clear in the David Harbour version, because the culmination of that storyline is that Hellboy in David Harbour's version decides he's kind of become seduced by the quote-unquote dark side, which is how it's presented in that movie, which is the Fae stuff, represented by Mila Jovovich playing Nimue, which, to be fair, pretty easy to be seduced by Mila Jovovich. Just saying.
She's not available, man. Stop making weird comments about it.
I know.
It's never going to happen.
It just hurts. But in that movie, the central conflict is that he starts going like, why am I killing fantasy creatures when humans are the bad guys? Which again, like we've talked about this entire time, is such a misread of that character and that story in general that it's almost embarrassing to watch. And then it being solved by Ian McShane's ghost appearing from Alice, who is now a ghost medium.
Okay.
Very bad remix of that character, who pops up as a ghost and goes like, hey, stop being a whiny little shit, Hellboy. I raised you to be the defender of humanity, and I know you're better than being like a weird fae creature. You're better than that. You're a human. And Hellboy's like, yeah, I am human. I'm going to kill Nimue and save the day. And he fucking chops Mila Jovovic's head off, and that's the end of that movie. And it fucking sucks. It's really bad. And then we get the, well, that just happened line. But that movie, at its heart, thinks of Hellboy as an action hero. Not a misunderstood Frankenstein, but like as an ass-kicking, drunk, alcoholic, loose cannon.
A Will Smith in Bad Boys, or possibly a Bad Boys for life.
Yes, absolutely. And that's just not him at all.
No, that's bad. That's dumb. That's an incredibly misguided take on the character.
Yes, and when you contrast it, unlike Del Toro's attempt, when you contrast it with like the actual events of the comic, which they do constantly, like I said, they do most of the beats of the Wild Hunt in that, it just raises it to a complete absurd level. It works. It doesn't work at all in any way, which is why I'm so surprised they're taking another swing at it with the Crooked Man, which I think right off the bat, terrible choice for another Hellboy movie.
It's a weird one. Yeah. But I don't know. I hope that with the idea to go in a more like toned down, less focused on the cosmological aspects of the character and just have him do a little like Monster Hunt story, that could be interesting. Give the writing some confines to run up against so that it's not just another big MacGuffin explosion fight thing.
Yes, I think on a high level, it is smart to just pick one of the more self-contained short stories and do that. I think that is a no-brainer. Though the decision to choose the like evil hillbillies one is maybe not what I would have gone with.
Yeah, well,
the like, hick yokels seduced by the dancing witches who are all inbred.
America, rural Americana of the Appalachians is easy to make fun of these days. What with all the incest and the horrible mutant hillbillies they have running around.
I think we're trying to move away from that kind of characterization of an entire group of Americans.
No, we were trying to for a while, but now we're doubling down.
Now we're just going back. It's like, fuck it. They are all like inbred hicks, and they do get seduced by the devil very easily because they're horny.
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, what a mistake.
I would have preferred them to do the hanging man, the one where he has to drag the guy around on his back, the dead body.
Yes, which they do for like 2 seconds at the end of the first Hellboy movie.
That one I would have liked. I don't know about this, but again, we'll see. As far as I can tell, new Hellboy in theaters now. We're not going to fact check that, but I don't know. I'll probably see it. I'll end up seeing it.
I'm sure you'll see it. And what's funny actually is that Hellboy did lead me down the dark path of American comics, and you know what is, or maybe it's already out of theaters, but Aliens in theaters. And one of the things that I unfortunately read was, I don't know if you ever touched it. Have you ever read the comic continuation of Aliens?
No, I have not.
Hoo boy.
But then again, you know my feelings about James Cameron and his less than stellar sequel to a good movie.
Well, this is you're crazy. I mean, that's an insane thing to say. This is a very, very strange version of it. I think it kind of exemplifies what I don't like about, and this is the funny part, it's the inflection point. What I don't like about Hellboy adaptations is that in the comics, they do basically the exact same thing, but in the other direction. Where in Hellboy's adaptation, they take this thing, this kind of somber, melancholic tone that is about something, and they turn it into, action movies that are about something completely different. In Aliens, the comic, they take a movie that's about something, Alien and Aliens being, essentially about labor relations. That's, not to belabor that. That's been talked about to death. But they take that and they turn it into, hey, what if all of humanity is like better off dead? And like humans suck and aliens aren't actually aliens. They're just representation of humanity's like self-destructive urges, which is a read. It's a read of Alien, I guess.
No. Don't you know that aliens are about a cruel god hating his creations? And James Cameron, not James Cameron, the other one.
James Ridley Cameron Scott.
Ridley Scott having issues with his dad.
Having issues with his brother.
His brother dad.
Those are much more interesting. I love all the Alien movies. I had a much worse time with the Alien comics. Man, American comics, compared to manga, much more obsessed with hating people. You ever notice that?
Well, I can't say I've noticed it in particular in comics, but as an American, I sure know a thing or two about hating people.
It is easy to hate people when you're an American. That is true. Maybe it's harder if you're Japanese, but even what is the most nihilistic manga you've ever read, do you think?
Oh gosh, probably Happy Sugar Life.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I would have said something like, I don't know, Oyasumi Punpun has a pretty bleak outlook on life. In the first issue, one of the characters basically says, there's no point in growing up because climate change is going to kill us all anyway, and there's nothing we can do about it. But I find even that it totally pales in comparison to like stuff like American comics' complete disdain for human life at large. And I guess that's why I read manga.
As an escape from Western brutalism?
Well, I don't think that human beings are ontologically evil. I think human beings at large are neutral to good. And I feel like most Western comics don't.
Okay, you're anti-Hobbesian. I get it.
Yeah.
Let's not sit around though and try and hold up, manga and Japanese culture as like a paragon of pro-social media and movement. Okay, they've got some issues. All right, I think we need to look no further than Zom 100 to look where that path goes down.
Sure. I know we have stuff like Gakugarashi. Obviously, lots of zombie stuff makes its way, and zombie stuff, like we've talked about endlessly, does have a particularly cynical view of humanity and our almost like psychosexual urge to destroy ourselves and each other. But I find even in the most sickly sweet, like all you have to do is believe in yourself and your friend stuff, to be infinitely more palatable than stuff like the Aliens comics, which is just endless drudgery of like loving is stupid and believing in things is stupid and struggling to survive in the face of certain death is stupid, and being a guy is just stupid. Like being a human is dumb. Like you shouldn't do it. It's dumb and stupid. And I think that is like a weird pivot point for me in particular, where I abandoned Western comics. Now I'm trying to tie it back. I'm trying to tie it all up together.
You're trying to tie it back.
I'm trying to tie it all back. That is a weird pivot point for me to like go into manga in particular and like go out of Western comics.
I mean, it seems like a pretty natural exit point. I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You know, personally, I exited Western comics when Zack Snyder tried to do his take on Watchmen. That's when I knew we were beyond the pale.
Yes. And Alan Moore constantly racking up dubs, hates that movie, which is a dub itself. Just like Mignola, I think his comics are completely misunderstood because he is not a guy who's like humanity is stupid and it sucks to be human. I don't think he believes that at all, in the least. I think you can read From Hell and be like, well, he thinks humans are bad, but I don't believe that. I don't think that's a good read of that comic. I think you can read The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and be like, well, he thinks that human beings are like primordially destined to like hurt each other, and
well,
I feel like maybe for that comic,
Extraordinary Gentleman is an interesting case specifically because of the way the existence of the film adaptation affected the movie or affected the comic books. After the film came out, he moved the writing,
the Sean Connery film,
yes, the beloved Sean Connery film.
Yes,
he moved the direction of the writing in there to be purposefully extreme so that they wouldn't push to do a sequel.
Yeah, good for him.
I mean, it was a very, based Giga Chad move, absolutely.
Sure.
But it was a choice to have the Invisible Man sexually assaulted to death by Mr. Hyde.
Yes, I know. And it's like, he has talked at length about his thought process around doing that and how now he wouldn't do it that way. And he regrets doing it a little bit. And I feel like he's being sincere there. But also, I think if you read his Swamp Thing, that is one of the most like pro-humanist comics.
Oh, absolutely.
Ever.
Swamp Thing is one of his best runs in writing ever.
Yes, and I find that to be an incredibly hopeful and like, pro-human stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Swamp Thing is fantastic. I mean, I think every Alan Moore is fantastic. I think he's the best Western guy to do it.
All right.
But, that is Western comics. Also, I was going to talk about heavy metal and Mobius and Metal Hurlant, Howling Metal, and the way it started in National Lampoons and that's connection.
All right,
to
he's
like
listing
70s
things
fantasy
again.
And
We've run along.
Adult comics in general, and people like Philippe Juillet and some of the Singaporean writers.
He's just going to keep going. So I'm just going to jump in here and say
Enki Bilal
thank you
wrote
once again,
comics in
folks, for
that,
sticking
and
around.
Milo Manara.
It has been a pleasure talking to you
Richard
about
Corbin
anime,
was
about
big.
American manga, about American
eventually
comics.
They resurrected,
Go like and
the
subscribe.
Morbius
Check us out on the
name under the
YouTube, on
Humanoids
TikTok.
Publishing.
Download. Give us 5 stars
that
on
was a
Apple
Spanish and
Podcasts.
Portuguese
We need the
version.
reviews desperately. And of course,
stuff like French authors like Leo Quevreau.
download us
recently
wherever
was
podcasts are
published in
found.
there.
Handsome, beautiful listeners. We love you. Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, God. Hello, I'm Alan Partridge.
I am Alan Partridge.
Hey, I'm Alan Partridge.
Partridge.
I'm from the USA.
I am Alan Partridge. I am a popular radio presenter from the America.